So the purpose of this video today is for me to take note. It's to take note as to the things that I did this year, the things that I will do the same, and the things that I'm going to do differently. And a lot of times I always tend to do something differently the following year. So today is August 15th. It is getting to be towards the end of the summer growing season. And I'm just going to make a note of what my zinnias look like. I don't know if you saw that video on how to plant zinnias for free and how easy it is to plant, but this is what they look like this year. So me taking note, next year I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to add my flowers. I will probably add some good garden soil. I know it doesn't require a whole lot, but just a little bit to hold it down. I just used the peat moss and the dirt that was already existing. Just saw something. I'll have to show you later if I remember. Actually, I'll show you right now. See that elephant ear growing? I don't know how that got back there. We must have thrown out a bulb. I gotta take a quick look. So not sure how that got back there, but that is an elephant ear growing. Sometimes we just toss like weeds and stuff or plants that have died back. We just kind of toss them back here and we figure they will just decompose. We don't utilize the space. We mow up to this edge all the way down. So basically the rest is free game. I'm not sure how that got there. Anyways, let's go back to note to self. So this is where I planted my zinnias. I have a couple of lilac bushes. Here's one right here. This one hasn't really done that well. That one has done better. Oh, note to self, I do want to utilize these obelisks next year. I'm thinking about planting sunflowers in them, but I'm not sure where I am going to use them at. Because I know last year I placed them in the garden on either side of the backside and it just took up too much space. I might possibly do that again next year, but only plant sunflowers in them. So before we walk into the garden, just as a disclaimer, the note to self is because I know a lot of people keep garden journals, but I am horrible at, number one, taking notes and then remembering where I've placed them. So I'm going to start on the left side here. I don't remember if I put in a previous video these petunias that were growing here. They were not intended to grow. I had purchased a packet of seeds and they were supposed to be chives. I knew they weren't chives after they had germinated, but I went ahead and planted them anyways just to see what they were, and they turned out being petunias, which they aren't horrible, but they do really take over. So note to self, probably maybe prune back to keep it under control, because I do have, and hopefully it survived. I'm gonna have to really clean this up. So there's supposed to be, oh, here it is. Let's see what it is. It's either rosemary. Oh, it's lavender. So once I clean this up, it'll look a lot better and it'll get really full. So note to self, clean up this corner. Make sure that lavender has plenty of space to grow and spread out. So note to self, there's a bunch of asparagus fern in here. We're going to keep it only asparagus next year. I had a volunteer tomato plant that I had seen grow in here and I thought, you know, not a big deal, we'll see if it grows, and it did, and it's all over the place. So note to self, don't let anything else except asparagus grow in this area. Note to self, bean plants. I am going to only plant bean plants on here. Last year I did, and they did great. I got a later start on these bean plants, so it's probably not going to do too much this year. But last year they were completely full, so I'm going to do that again. They were big and full, like on this side, the way they trellised up. I did not plant intentionally any bean seeds. They happened to be volunteer plants that came back. So this is the section of tomatoes. I used the bamboo stakes. They did great the first year, but I think bamboo stakes, they wear over time. Some of them broke over. I did get busy at times and I didn't stake them up like I should have, but some of these plants got so big that they just flopped over and there would have been no way. I mean, some of these plants got probably 7 foot tall or more. So note to self, next year I am going to put about halfway, so probably about 2 foot in between the edge and the fence. I am going to put a cattle panel with 6 foot stakes all the way down, and I will only plant the tomatoes on this side, and they will stop right about here, which is before my chives. I will continue to plant. I don't know if you can see how big some of my marigolds did. You can see some back there too. They probably got close to 4 foot tall. So I will still plant marigolds in strategic locations, but not as many as I did this time. I have one there and there and there. So note to self, marigolds only go on the back side of the cattle panel. I will also plant dill back here, which I did this year. So I'll be collecting some of these seeds and I will probably interplace dill and marigolds all the way down. In this back corner, I think I might go ahead and plant my cantaloupe. I have it planted on this side over here. I don't know if you can see, I do have one beautiful melon growing and some more that are starting to grow. I got a very late start on it this year. These are my favorite types. So I think I will plant melons in this corner and in this corner. I will probably continue planting sunflowers here, but I need to make sure that I stake it up in such a way that they stand probably about the height of what the railing is, just to keep it inside there because they have a tendency of flopping over. So I don't know, I might somehow cage it in just in that boxed area. Same with on this side. I will continue to plant my garlic, which I'll be planting here shortly, probably September or so. So this bed will have to be cleared out. I will continue to plant garlic probably on this back side and down the sides closest to the edge all the way down. In this bed I will also grow lettuce like I did this year and onions, and I might go ahead and try my hand again with carrots. I will be planting my cucumbers on either side of this arch. So I will have cucumbers planted here and on this side of the arch. They will grow up and over. I will have to try to contain myself and not plant anything extra in this area, which is right underneath the arch, except I will probably plant dill. And probably not a bad idea to plant a marigold, maybe one on each side. I do have some celery planted on the other side over there, but do not plant any more tomatoes. Note to self. Parsley was fine here, and on the other side, I'm not sure what I'm going to do here. I do love growing my tomatillas. That's what this is. In one of my previous videos on harvesting tomatillas, I show you how huge they got. I just trimmed all of this up probably by 2/3, so that's why it doesn't look like there's that much here. I'm gonna have to think on if I'm going to maybe do another partial cattle panel right down the center and maybe add some more tomatoes here and possibly some more garlic down the sides. Oh, and basil. I will also make sure I plant, not sure if I'll plant it in the front or in the back side of the cattle panel. I have to make sure I plant basil. Here's parsley. That did well. Basil's fine right there. And now we're on the right side, on the right gate. I will continue to plant beans again up the trellis, but I'll make sure it's on both sides. If I have a picture of what these look like, I'll have to show you. They were absolutely beautiful last year. In this corner, I have some basil grown in here, but I also threw a basil in here. And so the basil really takes over. It's probably at least 3 foot tall, but I would like to see that oregano growing. Oh, and nasturtiums. I could probably plant nasturtiums again in the corners here and over in that side in the corner. I will probably plant garlic down the side here. I might plant some onions in through here. Well, or maybe right through here. I don't like planting anything on the other side of this pole because it's very hard to have to climb in here. So I tend to plant and like to plant things that I don't have to harvest or harvest much because I have to step in and through. I don't want to do that. So maybe onions through here, peppers. I will grow all through here. I have to make sure that I have plenty of these cages. I'll see if I can find bigger cages though, like those down there. And I have to make sure I have plenty of jalapenos. Even though I like poblanos, Todd is not a huge fan of poblanos. I don't know. I have to make that decision. I might still plant a couple poblano plants, but I planted 2 jalapeno plants. I probably need to plant 4 and maybe 2 poblano plants and 6 green pepper plants. I planted eggplant for the first time, the regular eggplant for the first time, and we haven't eaten it yet, so I got a late start on those. But I have 1 growing and 1 in the house, so we'll be eating those to see if we really like those, so we may or may not plant those again. The nasturtium was a good idea in this corner, and I will plant the melons again in that back corner. You can get a better look at this melon that's growing back there. Have some rogue zinnias. I did not plant these. They somehow just wound up in here. I will make sure marigolds are planted on the back side. I will interplant basil again through here. And note to self, make darn sure you keep it pruned back so it doesn't get this out of control. As I mentioned on the other side, have some type of a caged in area that is level with the post, the top post there, so that the sunflowers have a place to grow up inside of and not worry about flopping over into the aisle here. Like I said, this video was for me to make sure I remembered what I did this year and what to either do differently next year or do the same next year. And if you stuck with me through this video, I appreciate you taking the time out to do this, to spend time with me. And until next time, thank you for watching.